Hello and welcome to CNBC.com. I'm Frank Holland, anchor of Worldwide Exchange. We're looking at the ETF market and net inflows, which have topped the $1 trillion mark this week. It's the second year in a row where ETF net inflows are over $1 trillion. We're on pace for a new record year. Here to discuss with me the current ETF market and what we're seeing is Clark Allen, head of ETFs at Horizon. Clark, thanks for being here.
Excited to be here. Thanks, Frank.
All right, let's talk about that $1 trillion mark. Second year in a row that ETF net inflows have crossed $1 trillion. What does that say about the current market that we're seeing such a push into ETFs?
Yeah, Frank, I'm obligated to say it's because of transparency, liquidity, and tax efficiency that folks continue to pile into ETFs. But as I talk to clients and get under the hood with investors, what you're seeing is there's a lot of innovation coming into the ETF wrapper. This is through options-based strategies and other types of solutions that didn't particularly exist within an accessible format for investors. It's not solutions that they could invest in on their own. And so putting those, we'll call it sophisticated options-based approaches within an ETF wrapper is giving investors access to solutions they haven't had historically. And this is end clients and financial advisors now being able to invest in the liquidity that the ETF wrapper gives them an easy button to be able to purchase these complicated and sophisticated solutions.
All right. The fact that we're on pace for a record-breaking year, is that simply due to just the rally that we're seeing in the broader market, or is there some other factor that we're going to break the previous record and again cross the $1 trillion mark again?
There's definitely a lot of demand for growth type exposure. There's a lot of folks not wanting to miss out on this potential rally in AI and innovation. I would say that we're likely, with the pace of ETF launches that are happening to date, we're likely to pass that. And I wouldn't see that stopping anytime soon, especially with all the innovation that you're seeing come into the ETF wrapper via, again, mainly option-based strategies, but there's a lot of sophistication that's coming through the ETF wrapper, giving folks access to solutions. As a result, we don't see that demand stopping anytime soon.
So this week, top inflows according to Verify, that's a company that we use for flows, was the BBEU. This is a large cap European stock ETF, mostly passive, followed by the GLD, of course, a gold ETF, and then also the BNDX, that's the Vanguard Total Bond ETF, so the entire bond market. Those are the top three. Do you think that's due to the government shutdown, that this week in particular, we're seeing ETF investors move away from the equity market in the U.S.?
I think this is a combination of maybe the tariff scares that have now come back, as well as the government shutdown. I mean, GLD, I think, is some of that government shutdown fears. If you think about the bond exposure as well as BBEU, this is folks saying, hey, China and the U.S. are going tit for tat again. Where can I go? What's another market that's a large, we'll call it safer market, more stable market? And Europe is one of those, as well as just let's get some exposure to some fixed income to give some stability to our portfolio.
All right, I want to get to your picks. What are your picks to play the current ETF market?
Yeah, one of the ETFs that we've seen a lot of interest and demand from investors is one of our ETFs, Why Not? This is a digital frontier ETF. It's a one-stop shop solution for folks that want access to growth or AI exposure, potentially some crypto or even quantum, but they don't want to have to select individual ETFs and understand how much to allocate to each. In our digital frontier ETF, you're representing the whole digital ecosystem. This is technology, AI, quantum, as well as crypto. And all of those weights are going to be dynamic over time, making sure that we're adapting to the technological advancements. Again, not making investors have to make that choice, ETF by ETF, but for them to be able to own one ETF that represents the entirety of the digital frontier ecosystem.
So this is an actively managed ETF. This year in particular, we see more of a push of actively managed ETFs. According to Goldman, about 37% of inflows have gone into active compared to about 26% in 2024. What do you think's attracting investors to actively managed ETFs?
I think it goes back to sort of one of the first points was the innovation and sophistication that's now being accessible through the ETF wrapper. There's a lot of new innovation that's happening. Some of it is shiny objects, but what it's doing is it's paving the way for taking some complicated and sophisticated strategies, putting them in an ETF wrapper, and then it's giving access to investors. And that's huge because, again, some of these sophisticated solutions are very helpful for end investors or financial advisors for them to meet their goals over time and for them to get access to exposures. In the case of the digital frontier, we have a actively managed stock basket, and then we're able to layer on top of that crypto without having to give up some of the other single stock exposure because we can use options and other types of approaches to access that crypto market. And so that kind of sophistication is only accessible through something like a 40 Act wrapper. And so we see that continuing.
All right, Clark Allen, head of ETFs at Horizon. Thank you so much for your time and your pick. Thank all of you for watching CNBC.com. I'm Frank Holland, anchor of Worldwide Exchange. Have a great day.